He said divorce like it was nothing, like I was nothing. And when she stepped forward, the woman who slapped me in my own store, I realized she was about to do it again. The champagne glass in my hand felt too heavy. Christmas lights glittered overhead, turning the ballroom into something out of a winter dream. Golden, warm, expensive. Everyone was laughing, talking, celebrating the year's end. I stood beside Dowon in my pressed black suit, the one he'd chosen for me this morning, and tried to ignore the cold space between us. He hadn't touched me in weeks, hadn't looked at me properly in longer. But I told myself it was stress, work, pack politics. I told myself a lot of things. Then Dowon took the microphone. The room quieted instantly. He had that effect, commanding, untouchable, the kind of alpha everyone respected without question. I smiled up at him, the way I always did, waiting for whatever corporate announcement he was about to make. His gaze slid over me like I wasn't there. "I have an announcement," he said, voice carrying effortlessly across the crowd. "I'm divorcing my Omega." The words didn't land at first. They hung in the air, impossible, while my brain scrambled to make sense of them. Around me, conversations died. Glasses stopped mid-sip. Someone gasped. I looked up at Dowon, waiting for the punchline, the correction, something. He stared straight ahead. My suppressants cracked. I felt it happen, the careful chemical barrier I'd maintained for 3 years splintering apart. My scent bled into the room, wild and humiliating, broadcasting my shock to every single person here. "Down!" My voice came out broken. He didn't even glance down. "I should have done this months ago," he continued, like he was discussing quarterly earnings. "But I wanted to wait until the timing was right, until I could do it properly." Properly. He thought this was proper. Heat crawled up my neck. I couldn't breathe right. The room tilted slightly, or maybe that was me. Then Dowon gestured toward the crowd, and my heart stopped completely. A woman stepped forward. Elegant, confident, beautiful in a way that made every eye in the room follow her. She wore red, bold, unapologetic red, and when she smiled, it was the kind of smile that knew it had already won. I knew that smile. I knew that face. No, no, it couldn't be. "This is Bitna," Dowon said, and his voice actually warmed. "My fiancée, the woman I should have chosen from the start." The room blurred, sound muffled. All I could see was her face, her hand pulling back 3 months ago in my bookshop, the crack of her palm across my cheek, her voice screaming that I was incompetent help, that she wanted to speak to the real owner. She'd walked in demanding service, treating me like I was beneath her. When I'd politely told her I was the owner, she'd laughed, called me a liar, said Omegas didn't own businesses, they just played at them until their alphas got tired of the hobby. Then she'd slap me hard enough to leave a mark for days. I'd gone home that night with my face still stinging, and I'd told Dowon everything, voice shaking, cheek red, needing him to be angry for me, to care that someone had put their hands on me. He'd barely looked up from his laptop. "Maybe you provoked her," he'd said. "You can be sensitive." Sensitive. Now she stood beside him, her hand on his arm, and I understood. She'd known exactly who I was. The whole thing had been intentional. A test, a game, a preview of this exact moment, and Dowon had let it happen. "I have to say," Bitna's voice cut through my spiraling thoughts, light and amused, "I actually met Hagen before tonight. At his little shop." Laughter rippled through parts of the crowd. "Little shop? Like it was a child's toy." "He was so rude," she continued, stepping closer to me, "pretending to be the owner, lying to my face. I had to teach him some manners." Her smile widened. "Maybe I should remind him of that lesson." She moved fast. Her hand came up, and I saw it coming, but my body wouldn't respond. Shock had frozen me in place. The slap cracked across my face. Pain exploded, white hot. My head snapped to the side. The taste of copper flooded my mouth. Gasps erupted around us. Something inside me snapped. Not broke. Snapped. 3 years of swallowing every insult, every dismissal, every time Dowon made me feel small. Every moment I told myself to be patient, be understanding, be the perfect Omega. Gone. My hands moved before my brain caught up. I lunged forward, fingers closing around her throat. Her eyes went wide. Shock, fear, good. I squeezed, not enough to truly hurt, just enough to make her feel what I'd felt. Helpless, humiliated, trapped. You want to teach me manners? My voice came out ragged, unrecognizable. Let me teach you what happens when you push someone too far. Screams erupted. Hands grabbed at me. Security, guests. I didn't know, didn't care. My grip tightened. Bitna clawed at my wrists, gasping, and the sound was beautiful. Heijun! Dowon's voice, sharp, commanding. I didn't let go. Get him off her! Someone shouted, arms wrapped around me from behind. 2 guards, maybe 3. They pulled. My fingers slipped. Bitna stumbled back, coughing, one hand at her throat. Tears streamed down her face, ruining her makeup. The guards forced me to my knees. Cold marble bit through my slacks. My hands were yanked behind my back. My scent was everywhere. Wild, furious, out of control. Dowon stepped forward, face dark with rage. You've lost your mind, he said, voice deadly quiet. Maybe I had. But the main doors burst open. 3 figures strode in. Identical faces. Different storms. The crowd parted. The guards' grips loosened slightly, heads turning. Kyung, Taejun, Yejun. They moved like predators, cutting through the stunned crowd. Their combined scent hit the room, overwhelming, undeniable. Kyung reached me first. His hand landed on my shoulder, his eyes locked on the guards holding me. Let him go. The hand on my shoulder felt like an anchor, like the only thing keeping me from dissolving completely. Let him go. Kyung's voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. The command rippled through the ballroom like a physical force, and the guard's hands loosened on my arms immediately. Instinct overriding orders. I couldn't breathe properly. My knees were still pressed against cold marble, my face burning where Bitna had struck me, my throat raw from holding back everything I wanted to scream. Then Taejun was there, crouching in front of me, his hand extended, palm up, patient. Come on, he said quietly. You don't kneel for anyone anymore. I stared at his hand. Strong, steady, nothing like Dowon's. Dowon's hands were always moving, always impatient, always reaching for something else, even when they touched me. I took it. Taejun pulled me to my feet with surprising gentleness, and suddenly I was standing between all 3 of them. Kyung behind me, hands still on my shoulder. Taejun in front. Yejun to my left, angled like a shield between me and the crowd. Their combined scent wrapped around me. Cedar and rain and something darker, richer. It cut through my panic like a knife through silk. Safe. For the first time in years, I felt safe. Dowon's voice shattered the moment. You have no right to be here. He stepped forward, jaw tight, that familiar alpha command bleeding into his tone. This is a private company event. Kyung's hand tightened on my shoulder, just slightly. Enough for me to feel the restraint it took not to move. Stay out of family business, Dowon added, and his voice carried that old authority, the kind that used to make me fold without question. Taejun's response was ice. That's exactly why we're here. The crowd shifted. Whispers spread like fire catching dry wood. I caught fragments. The brothers, estranged, something about a feud, but none of it made sense through the ringing in my ears. Dowon's eyes swept over the 3 of them, then landed on me. Cold, dismissive. Your fiancé? He laughed, and the sound cut worse than Bitna's slap. You've lost your minds. Bitna pressed closer to his side, her hand on his arm, possessive, triumphant. Her throat still showed the red marks from my fingers, and part of me, the ugly, hurt part, was glad. You 3 barely know him, Dowon continued, voice dripping with mockery. He pointed at them like they were children caught in a lie. You met him once. Once. At some formal nonsense years ago. Once. The word hit me like cold water, and suddenly I was 19 again, standing in my parents' formal sitting room in a suit that didn't fit right, staring at 3 identical faces across from me. They'd been polite, respectful, distant. It had felt like a business transaction, names exchanged, Documents signed. My future decided by people who barely looked at me. Then Dowon had found me 3 weeks later at a coffee shop near campus. Charming, intense, everything the triplets hadn't been. You don't want to be sold off like property to strangers, do you? I'd believed him. God, I'd believed every word. And now you think you can claim him? Dowon's voice pulled me back to the present. That's pathetic, even for you. He looked at me then, and his expression made my stomach turn. My leftovers, he said. That's all he is. The room went silent. Someone gasped. I felt the words land like physical blows, each one precise, designed to destroy whatever dignity I had left. You're right. Kyung's voice was calm, deadly calm. We met once. Dowon's smile widened. He thought he'd won. At the engagement ceremony, Yejun continued, and I felt the shift in the room, the sudden tension. 7 years ago, Dowon's smile faltered. Our packs arranged the triad bond before Haejin turned 20, Taejun said, addressing the crowd now. His voice carried effortlessly. The contracts were signed. The engagement was official, legal. No, that couldn't be. But I remembered. The documents, my parents' careful signatures, the way the triplets had stood so formally, witnesses on both sides, everything documented with legal precision. The engagement was voided when he married me, Dowon snapped, but his voice had lost some of its confidence. Show us the paperwork, Kyung said. Silence, heavy, damning, absolute. Taejun's voice dropped, and I heard the blade hidden in it. You never filed the dissolution, did you, little brother? Little brother. The words were a weapon. I saw Dowon's face flush, saw something ugly twist in his expression. He chose me. Dowon's voice rose. That makes it void. Choice doesn't override law, Yejun said quietly. You knew that. You just didn't care. The crowd erupted in whispers. An older man near the front, silver-haired, commanding presence, stepped forward slightly. I recognized him. Park Sang-woo, one of the most respected pack elders in the region. The engagement stands, he said, voice carrying authority that even Dowon couldn't challenge. It always has. More voices joined in agreement. People who understood pack law, people who remembered the formal announcement 7 years ago. I couldn't process it. 7 years. 7 years of marriage, and legally, I'd been engaged to 3 other men the entire time. Dowon had stolen me, had manipulated me into thinking I was making my own choice when really he'd just been taking what belonged to his brothers. Bitna's voice cut through, shrill and panicked. It doesn't matter. He's divorced now. He's free. But her eyes betrayed her. She knew. She could feel the room turning. Free to honor the engagement that never ended, Kyung said simply. Dowon's face went from red to white, his hands clenched into fists at his sides. I knew that look, rage barely contained. The kind that used to make me flinch. This is ridiculous, he spat. You can't just... We can, Taejun interrupted. And we are. Yejun's voice was softer, but somehow more dangerous. We've waited 7 years, Dowon. We respected his choice. We stepped back. We gave you every chance to make him happy. The accusation hung in the air. Kyung leaned closer to me, voice low enough that only I could hear. Did he? Make you happy? My throat closed. I couldn't answer. Couldn't speak. The silence was answer enough. My senses were completely gone now. I felt it, my scent bleeding into the room, wild and uncontrolled, humiliating, broadcasting every emotion I couldn't hide. The triplets went rigid, all 3 of them. Simultaneously, their heads turned slightly, nostrils flaring, and something shifted in their expressions. Shock, recognition, something else I couldn't name. Then other people started noticing, whispers spreading faster now. An older woman near the front covered her mouth, eyes wide. Another Omega gasped softly. Why were they staring like that? What was wrong with my scent? Kyung's hand on my shoulder tightened, not painful but grounding. Protective. Dowon! Taejun's voice cut through the murmurs, quiet but carrying perfectly in the sudden stillness. When exactly did you last touch him? The question seemed random, irrelevant, but Dowon's face went ashen. He opened his mouth, closed it. His eyes darted to Bitna, then to me, then back to the triplets. That's none of your business, he finally managed, but his voice shook. Answer the question, Yejun said. Not a request, a command. Dowon's jaw worked. He looked trapped, cornered. Then I remembered what he'd said earlier, in front of everyone, while ordering security to make me kneel. We haven't been intimate in months. I've barely touched him since summer. The lie had been so smooth, so confident, designed to humiliate me, to make me seem unwanted even by my own husband. But now, seeing his face, seeing the fear bleeding through his anger, why did that lie suddenly matter so much? Then explain, Yejun said, and his voice dropped to something lethal. Why he's carrying. The word detonated across the ballroom. Carrying. Pregnant. No. No, that couldn't be. But the room exploded in gasps and shocked murmurs. People staring at me like I transformed into something else entirely. And my body. Oh God. The exhaustion that never lifted. The nausea I'd blamed on stress. The way my suppressants had stopped working 3 weeks ago, no matter how much I took. The strange sensitivity, the mood swings, the way certain smells made me want to throw up. I'd thought it was heartbreak. Thought my body was breaking down because my marriage was falling apart. But it wasn't that at all. That scent is fresh, someone said, an older Omega woman with knowing eyes. 6 weeks at most. 6 weeks, not months, not since summer. My mind raced backward. 2 weeks ago. Dowon coming home late, crawling into bed, reaching for me in the darkness. Quick, silent, almost mechanical. I'd thought maybe we could still fix things. I'd been so desperately, pathetically hopeful. And before that, a month ago, maybe 6 weeks, when he'd been unusually affectionate for one night. Almost like the old days. Almost like he still loved me. I'd clung to that memory for weeks. Now I understood. It hadn't been love. It had been, what? A last use of something he was planning to throw away? A way to keep me compliant while he prepared his exit? The crowd was doing the math. Everyone could see it. Dowon's earlier lie, months without touching me, was unraveling in real time. Publicly. Spectacularly. You lied, Bitna whispered, and her voice carried in the silence. She stared at Dowon like she'd never seen him before. You said you hadn't touched him in months. Dowon's mouth opened and closed. No words came out. You got him pregnant, Kyung said quietly, and every word was a nail in a coffin. While planning to divorce him, while courting her, while lying to everyone, Taejun added. The triplets' combined scent intensified, and the air felt electric, dangerous, protective, and possessive, and enraged all at once. The engagement was never dissolved, Kyung continued, voice steady and absolute. Legally, Haejun is still ours, which makes any child he carries, Taejun said. Yejun's voice was soft, final, devastating. Ours to claim under pack law. The words hit me like lightning. Pack law. If the engagement still stood. If I was legally bound to them, not Dowon, then the baby, Dowon's baby, could be claimed by the triplets. Dowon's face twisted with rage and something that looked like panic. That's my child. Mine. You can't. You just gave us everything we've been waiting for, Kyung said softly, and the smile that crossed his face was beautiful and terrible. And I realized, standing there between 3 alphas I barely knew, carrying a child from a marriage that had never been legal, that my entire life had just been rewritten in the span of 10 minutes. I was so tired of being something someone else wanted to own. Enough! Park Sang-woo's voice cut through the chaos like a blade through silk. The room went silent instantly. He was old, 70s, maybe older, but he carried the kind of authority that made even alphas twice his size shut their mouths and listen. He stepped forward, positioning himself between Dowon and the triplets, his eyes sweeping the crowd with clear disapproval. This spectacle ends now, he said. We will settle this with dignity, not circus theatrics. Bitna opened her mouth to protest, but one look from him made her snap it shut again. He turned to me, and his expression softened slightly. Hyjin C. You are at the center of a legal dispute that, frankly, should have been resolved 7 years ago. My legs felt weak. I was still standing between the triplets, their combined presence both suffocating and strangely grounding. The law is clear, Sangwoo continued. Your engagement to the Kim triplets was never formally dissolved. However, you also entered into a marriage with Kim Dowon, which, while technically invalid, produced consequences. He gestured vaguely toward me. Toward the child I was apparently carrying, the child I'd only learned about 10 minutes ago. Under PAC law, you have a choice to make. His voice was steady, clinical. You may choose to honor your marriage to Dowon, the father of your child, and we will work to formalize the dissolution of the prior engagement. Dowon stepped forward immediately, possessive energy radiating off him. He's carrying my child. The choice is obvious. I felt sick. Or, Sangwoo continued, ignoring Dowon's interruption, you may choose to honor the engagement that has stood for 7 years, in which case the child would fall under the triplets' claim as your legal bondmates. Kyung's voice was cold as winter. Let him speak for himself. Everyone was staring at me. Hundreds of eyes, waiting, expecting me to choose between two different forms of ownership. I looked at Dowon first, the man I'd loved for 7 years, the man who'd convinced me I was choosing freedom, when really I was just choosing a different cage, who just humiliated me publicly, announced our divorce like it was nothing, paraded his mistress in front of everyone, and lied about our intimacy to make me seem unwanted. Then I looked at the triplets, 3 identical faces I'd seen once when I was 19. Strangers who claimed they'd waited 7 years for me, who spoke about claiming my child like it was property law, who looked at me with something that might have been concern but felt more like possession. Both sides treating me like something to be won, something to be claimed, something that didn't get to decide for itself. Something inside me didn't break. It hardened. I accept the divorce. Dowon's face shifted. Confusion first, then something that looked almost like relief, then anger when he realized I wasn't finished. I turned to the triplets, met each of their eyes in turn. And I reject the engagement. The room exploded in gasps and shocked murmurs. The triplets went absolutely rigid, their expressions freezing in identical masks of disbelief. I'm not a prize to be won, I said, and my voice came out steadier than I expected, clearer. I'm not property to be claimed or traded or fought over. My scent spiked. Not submission, not fear, pure fury. I want nothing to do with any of you. The words felt like freedom and falling at the same time. I turned toward the exit. Every eye in the room followed me. The crowd parted instinctively, and I walked through them with my head up, my hands steady, everything I had left poured into just putting one foot in front of the other. Behind me, chaos erupted. You can't just leave, Dowon's voice sharp with panic. That's my child. Footsteps, multiple sets, running. I didn't look back, didn't slow down. Then a woman's voice, shrill and furious. You're going after him? After everything? A loud crack. Skin on skin. I glanced back despite myself and saw Bitna's hand still raised. Dowon's face turned to the side, a red mark already blooming on his cheek. The crowd's shocked silence broke into laughter. Some people tried to hide it behind their hands. Others didn't bother. I kept walking. The ballroom doors felt impossibly far away, but I reached them, pushed through. Cold December air hit my face like a slap, cutting through the suppressant withdrawal haze that had been building all night. Snow was falling, soft, silent. Christmas lights from the building reflected off wet pavement, turning everything golden and blurred. I kept walking. No destination, just a way, just anywhere that wasn't there. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I almost ignored it, almost threw it in the nearest trash can, but something made me pull it out. Check the screen. Message from Dowon. My thumb hovered over the delete button. Then I opened it anyway. Don't even think about harming my baby. I'll have you arrested if anything happens to it. The words hit me like ice water. Not, are you okay? Not, I'm sorry. Not even, come back so we can talk. Just threats. Just ownership of the child while discarding the person carrying it. My child, his baby, like I was just an incubator, a vessel. something he could threaten into compliance even after publicly destroying me. Something broke. Not the hard thing that had formed earlier. Something deeper. Something that had been holding me together through sheer force of will. I stopped walking, leaned against a brick wall in some side street I didn't recognize. My breath came in short, sharp gasps that fogged in the cold air. The tears I'd been holding back, through the divorce announcement, through Bitna's slap, through strangling her, through the pregnancy revelation, through everything, finally came. Ugly, gasping sobs that shook my whole body. The kind that hurt, the kind that felt like they might never stop. My legs gave out. I slid down the wall until I was sitting on cold, wet concrete. Snow fell on my hair, my shoulders, melting against my skin. Everything hurt. My face where Bitna had hit me, my throat, my chest, my heart. The exhaustion from the pregnancy I hadn't known about crashed over me all at once, pulling me under. I couldn't catch my breath, couldn't think straight. The world was tilting, blurring at the edges, sounds becoming distant and muffled. Footsteps, multiple sets, running. No, no, I couldn't do this again. Couldn't face anyone. Couldn't be strong anymore. I tried to stand. My body wouldn't cooperate. My arms were shaking, legs useless. 3 figures appeared through the falling snow. The triplets. No coats despite the freezing temperature, breathing hard like they'd been running. They must have followed me the second I left. Kyung dropped to his knees in front of me first, and I saw something in his face that looked almost like fear. "Haejin!" "Don't," I managed, voice hoarse and broken. "Don't touch me." But even as I said it, my vision was darkening at the edges. My body was shutting down, the cold and stress and shock and pregnancy all catching up at once. Kyung ignored my words. His hands cupped my face, gentle but firm, tilting my head up, checking my eyes, my pulse at my throat. "You're going into shock," he said quietly. Taejun was already shrugging off his suit jacket, draping it around my shoulders. The warmth was immediate, overwhelming, and I hated how good it felt. Yejun had his phone out. "We need a car, now." I tried to push them away, tried to find that hardness, that fury that had carried me out of the ballroom. "I said no," I whispered. "I don't want—" "We know." Kyung's voice was gentle, infuriatingly gentle. "We heard you. But you're collapsing in the snow," Taejun added, crouching beside his brother. "Pregnant, in shock." "So you can hate us tomorrow," Yejun said, still on his phone. "Right now you need help." A car pulled up, sleek, black, warm interior visible through the open door. When had he even called? How were they so prepared? "I don't need your help," I said, but the words came out weak, unconvincing even to myself. Kyung's arms slid under me, one behind my back, one under my knees, and lifted me like I weighed nothing. I wanted to fight, wanted to demand he put me down, wanted to maintain the autonomy I just claimed so publicly. But my body had other ideas. It relaxed into his hold, betraying me completely. His warmth seeped through Taejun's jacket, through my thin dress shirt, into my frozen skin. "Hospital or home?" Yejun's voice urgent. "Home," Taejun answered. "Hospital means reporters, questions, more chaos." They were carrying me toward the car. I should protest, should demand they let me go, should do literally anything other than let myself be carried away by 3 men I'd just publicly rejected. But consciousness was slipping through my fingers like water. The exhaustion was too heavy. The cold had seeped too deep. Everything hurt too much. Kyung settled into the back seat with me, still in his arms, cradled against his chest. Taejun slid in on one side, Yejun on the other. The door closed, cutting off the snow and cold. The car was warm, so warm. My eyes were closing despite every attempt to keep them open. The last thing I heard before darkness took me was Kyung's voice, soft against my hair, both a promise and a threat I was too tired to fight. "We've got you, whether you want us to or not." I woke up knowing exactly where I was before I even opened my eyes. The scent of old books, the particular way morning light slanted through the east-facing windows, the soft give of my own mattress beneath me. This was my apartment, the one I'd bought 3 years ago with money from my bookshop, the one Dowon had never wanted to visit because it was too small and in the wrong neighborhood, the one he'd never had keys to because I'd kept this space mine and mine alone. How did they get me inside? I opened my eyes slowly. My head throbbed. My body felt heavy, wrong, like I'd been wrung out and left to dry. Kyung sat in the armchair near the window, alert, watching me with an intensity that made my skin prickle. Sounds from the kitchen area, Taejun and Yejun, voices low, the smell of coffee drifting through the open space. They were in my home, my sanctuary, the only place in this entire city that was supposed to be just mine. Get out! My voice came out hoarse, rough. Kyung didn't move. You collapsed, he said quietly. We couldn't leave you on the street. I sat up too fast. The room tilted, nausea rolling through me in waves. I gripped the edge of the mattress until it passed. I didn't ask you to bring me here. My words were sharper now, clearer. I don't want you here. Taejun appeared in the doorway, coffee mug in hand. You need to eat something. You haven't... I don't need anything from you. I stood, legs shaky but holding. I need you to leave. Yejun stepped into view beside his brother. Hey Jun, you're not... Out! The word ripped out of me louder than I intended. My sense spiked. Not fear, not submission. Pure determination edged with fury. All three of them went still. That alpha instinct to push back against challenge, warring visibly with something else. Concern, maybe, or guilt. I pointed at the door. My hand was steady. Now. They exchanged glances. Some silent communication I wasn't part of. Then slowly they moved toward the entrance. Yejun paused at the threshold, looking back. We'll be right outside if you need anything. I slammed the door in their faces. The lock clicked with satisfying finality. Silence. Finally, blessed silence. I slid down with my back against the door, forehead resting on my knees, and let myself breathe for the first time in what felt like hours. Everything from last night crashed over me in fragments. The divorce announcement, Bitna's hand across my face, my fingers around her throat, the pregnancy revelation, the engagement I'd forgotten, the choice I'd rejected. I touched my stomach, still flat, no visible sign of the life growing there. Dowon's child. The thought should have hurt more than it did. Instead, it just felt heavy, real in a way nothing else did right now. I was going to be a parent, alone. No husband, no pack support, no carefully planned future. Just me and a baby I hadn't asked for, but was apparently responsible for keeping alive. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. I'd forgotten it was even there. 3 missed calls from Dowon, 7 texts I didn't want to read, 1 voicemail. I deleted all of it without looking. Then I scrolled to a number I hadn't called in years, my mother. My chest tightened as I hit dial. She answered on the second ring. Heijun? Her voice, surprised, worried, warm, almost broke me. Iyama. My throat closed around the word. I'm coming home. Silence on the other end. Then, when? Soon, maybe today, tomorrow. I need to leave. What happened? She didn't sound angry, just careful, like she'd been expecting this call for 7 years. Everything, I whispered. Everything happened. Another pause, then soft and certain. We'll prepare your room. Come home, baby. It's time. I ended the call before the tears could start again. Home. Back to my parents' pack 3 states away. The territory I'd left when I chose Dowon over the arranged engagement. The place I hadn't been allowed to visit because Dowon always had some excuse, some reason we couldn't make the trip. I stood up, legs steadier now, and started packing. Only what was mine. Clothes I'd bought before the marriage. Books Dowon had never touched. The wooden box with my grandmother's letters. Documents for the bookshop. I'd have to figure out what to do with it. Maybe sell it remotely. Maybe just let it go. The wedding album stayed on the shelf. Let Dowon deal with that. I needed a doctor. Needed to make sure last night's collapse hadn't hurt the baby. Needed to know what came next. I found Dr. Che's number in my contacts and left a message. It's Haejin Kim. I need a house call. I'm pregnant and I had complications last night. Please come as soon as you can." Then I went back to packing. An hour passed. Maybe two. Time felt strange, elastic. The doorbell rang. I checked the peephole out of habit. Someone in professional attire, medical bag in hand. Must be Dr. Che or someone from his practice. I unlocked the door and pulled it open. Bitna shoved past me into the apartment. I stumbled back, shock freezing every thought in my head. She looked terrible. Makeup smeared, dress wrinkled like she'd slept in it, eyes wild and red-rimmed. And in her right hand, something silver caught the light. A letter opener. Long, sharp, the kind I kept on my desk for mail. "How did you? You ruined everything." Her voice cracked on the words. "Everything." She advanced. I backed up, hands raised. "I didn't take anything from you," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "He divorced me, remember?" Her laugh was bitter, broken. "But you're still all he can think about. That baby, you, always you." She was shaking now, the letter opener trembling in her grip. "Last night he wouldn't stop calling you, wouldn't look at me, wouldn't touch me, just kept asking where you were, if you were safe." Tears streamed down her face. "I gave him everything, and he still wants you." "Bitna, put that down." Her eyes dropped to my stomach. Something shifted in her expression, something cold and decided. "If the baby's gone," she whispered, "you're nothing, just another discarded omega." She lunged. I tried to dodge, but my body was too slow, still weak from last night. Sharp pain exploded in my abdomen, left side, just below my ribs. I gasped, looked down. The letter opener was buried in my flesh. Blood bloomed across my shirt, warm, spreading fast. Bitna stumbled backward, eyes wide, the weapon still in her hand. I just wanted pain, white-hot and all-consuming. But beneath it, something else rose, something I'd never felt before. Rage, not the kind from last night when I grabbed her throat. This was different, primal, protective. The rage of a mother defending her young. This woman just tried to kill my child, not Dowon's, not anyone else's. Mine. Something broke inside me, not weakness, not surrender, pure animal fury. I ripped the letter opener from my side. The pain made me scream, but I didn't stop moving. My hand closed around it, slick with blood. Bitna backed toward the balcony, stammering. I'm sorry, I didn't mean..." I rushed at her. No plan, no thought. Just instinct and rage and the overwhelming need to make her pay for what she'd tried to do. My hands found her shoulders. I shoved with everything I had left. She crashed backward through the balcony door. Glass shattered around us, cold December air rushing in. Her back hit the railing. Momentum carried us both over. For one impossible moment, we were suspended. Fourth floor, nothing below but concrete and winter morning. Then we were falling. Wind rushed past my face. Bitna screamed. My hand pressed against my bleeding stomach, and all I could think was, the baby, oh God, the baby. Something caught me, strong arms wrapping around me from behind, impossibly in midair. We jerked to a stop. My ribs screamed in protest. The arms tightened, pulling me back. I've got you. Kyung's voice strained with effort, right in my ear. He pulled me over the railing, back onto what remained of the balcony. Glass crunched under his feet. Below, Bitna had hit the ground. She wasn't moving. Red spread across concrete like spilled paint. Taejun, call emergency. Yejun's voice sharp with command. Kyung lowered me carefully to the floor. His hands found the wound in my side, pressing. The pressure made me gasp. Stay with me, he said. Haejun, stay with me. But I couldn't. The blood wouldn't stop. Everything was spinning, darkening at the edges. My hand covered his where it pressed against my stomach. The baby, I whispered. Then there was nothing but black. I woke up knowing I should be dead. The pain told me I wasn't. Sharp, insistent, radiating from my left side with every breath. Soft morning light filtered through floor-to-ceiling windows. Expensive, minimalist furniture. Medical equipment beeping steadily beside a bed that wasn't mine. My hand went to my stomach before I was fully conscious. The baby's alive, Taejun's voice. rough, like he hadn't slept. He sat in a chair beside the bed, dark circles under his eyes, still wearing yesterday's blood-stained shirt. Both of you, he added quickly, seeing my face. Barely, but alive. I tried to sit up. Pain exploded through my torso, stealing my breath. Don't. His hand hovered near my shoulder, uncertain. You're on a thin line, Hajan. The wound missed vital organs by centimeters. Any stress, any movement. How long? My voice came out hoarse. 18 hours. We brought in every specialist we could find. He ran a hand through his hair. It was close. The door opened. Yejun entered carrying a tablet, his expression carefully controlled in a way that made my stomach drop. He needs to see this, he said to Taejun. Better from us than stumbling on it himself. He handed me the tablet. News footage played on mute. Police tape, covered body, reporters swarming a building I recognized. Dowon's penthouse. I unmuted it. Body identified as Bitna Seo, found early this morning outside the luxury residence of prominent businessman Kim Dowon. Police have arrested Dowon in connection with her death and have additionally reopened a cold case from 9 years ago involving the death of Park Ji-seok. The name meant nothing to me, but the triplets' faces shuddered closed. Footage of Dowon being led away in handcuffs, photographers shouting questions he didn't answer. We moved her body. Kyung's voice from the doorway made me flinch. He looked exhausted, phone still in hand. Cleaned your apartment. Recreated the scene at his place. He met my eyes without apology. She died at Dowon's penthouse, as far as the police know. You framed him. The words felt surreal in my mouth. We implicated him in Bitna's death, Taejun corrected. The evidence for Ji-seok's murder is real. We submitted everything to the police the same night we brought you here. Who is Ji-seok? I looked between them. What aren't you telling me? Silence. Heavy. Loaded with something old and painful. You need to rest, Taejun tried. No. I pushed myself up despite the pain screaming through my side. You just made me part of whatever this is. You framed your own brother for murder, moved a body, manipulated evidence. I deserve to know why. More silence. Then Kyung moved into the room, settling into a chair across from me. You're right, he said quietly. You do. He took a breath, and I saw something break open in his expression. Something carefully guarded finally being released. 9 years ago, we were bonded. I blinked. Bonded? To who? His name was Ji-seok. Park Ji-seok. Kyung's voice went soft. Our true mate. A triad bond. Rare, Yejun added, moving to stand beside his brother. Only happens once in thousands of bonds. We'd known him since we were kids, Taejun continued. The bond snapped into place when we all turned 21. For 3 years we were... His voice caught. We were whole. Past tense. My chest tightened. Dowon met Ji-seok at a family gathering, Kyung said, and something dark crept into his tone. He became obsessed, fixated. The youngest brother watching his older brothers have everything he wanted, Yejun explained. 3 alphas bonded to one perfect omega. It ate at him. He tried to court Ji-seok anyway, tried to convince him we were controlling him, using him. Kyung's hands clenched. Tried to break the bond through manipulation, lies, planted doubts. Nothing worked, Taejun said. Ji-seok loved us. Completely. The room felt smaller, colder. Dowon invited Ji-seok to his penthouse one night. Kyung continued, voice flat now, carefully emotionless. Said he wanted to apologize, make peace, be family again. I already knew how this ended, could see it in their faces. We should have gone with him, Taejun whispered. Should have known better. Ji-seok went alone, trusting. Yejun's jaw was tight. His body was found on the pavement below Dowon's building an hour later. My breath stopped. Ruled an accident, Kyung said. Witnesses claimed he jumped, that he'd been depressed, unstable. But he wasn't, Taejun said fiercely. He had no history of depression. We were planning our bonding ceremony. He was happy. And there were defensive wounds on his hands, Yejun added. Bruises on his wrists shaped like fingers. He fought. He didn't jump, Kyung finished. He was pushed. The room was silent except for the medical equipment beeping steadily. When a true mate dies, Kyung said quietly, the bond doesn't just break. It tears, rips through you like knives. All three of us collapsed the moment Jiseok died, Yejun said. Hospitalized for weeks. Nearly died from the trauma. Our father found us broken. Useless. Taejun's voice was bitter. When we accused Dowon of murder, he had alibis, witnesses, manufactured evidence of Jiseok's supposed depression. Our father believed him, Kyung said. The competent son over three broken alphas seeing conspiracy and tragedy. He exiled us, Yejun finished. Gave Dowon everything. The company, the territory, the family name. I tried to process it, tried to understand the depth of what they'd lost. A year later, Kyung continued, our packs arranged the engagement to you. We barely functioned. Went through the motions to satisfy pack politics. Then Dowon took sudden interest in you, Taejun said. Intense, obsessive. We recognized the pattern immediately, Yejun added. Understanding crashed over me like ice water. He didn't love me, I whispered. He wanted me because I was yours. He wanted to do to you what he did to Jiseok, Kyung confirmed. Take what belonged to us. Destroy it. When you chose him, pack law tied our hands, Taejun said. We had to step back. So we spent 7 years building an airtight case, Yejun continued. Gathering evidence. Finding witnesses, too afraid to come forward. Restoring security footage. And we watched you, Kyung said softly. Protected you from the shadows. Waited for the day you'd need us. My throat was tight. Everything made sense now. The way Dowon had isolated me. Kept me small. Controlled. The cruelty that felt personal in a way I'd never understood. I was never anything but a weapon to hurt them. Dowon isn't getting out, Kyung said firmly. 2 murders. Same building. Same method. The police have everything. You and the baby are safe now, Taejun added, something gentle in his voice. We promise. The news continued playing on mute. Dowon's face on every channel. The evidence mounting. Public outrage building. For the first time in days, I felt something loosen in my chest. Maybe it was over. Maybe we were finally safe. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. I almost ignored it. Probably news alerts. More coverage of the arrest. But something made me reach for it. Unknown number. I opened the message. A photo loaded. My mother. My father. Bound to chairs. Gags in their mouths. Terror in their eyes so visceral I could feel it through the screen. A hand visible in the frame. Gloved, holding a knife to my mother's throat. Text below. You took everything from him. The phone slipped from my hands. Kyung caught it, looked at the screen. His face drained of all color. What? Taejun demanded. Kyung showed them. All 3 went rigid. I couldn't breathe. My parents. 3 states away. They were supposed to be safe. Another message arrived. 48 hours. Fear makes you move when your body says stop. We're leaving. Now. I was out of bed before the triplets could react, pain exploding through my side. The room tilted, but I grabbed the IV stand, using it to stay upright. Haejun, you can't... Taejun started. My parents are going to die. My voice broke on the words. I don't care what the doctor said. We're going. Kyung's expression shifted. He made the call in seconds. We go. All of us. Yejun was already on his phone. I'll have the jet ready in 20 minutes. Taejun moved to my side, wrapping additional bandages around my torso with quick, efficient movements. Each touch sent sharp pain radiating through me, but I bit down on it. Didn't make a sound. Pain meds, portable supplies, everything we can carry. Kyung was already packing a medical bag. We moved fast, no time to waste. 48 hours felt like nothing. The private jet was smaller than I expected. Luxurious but functional. They settled me on a reclined seat, reconnected the IV, made sure I could lie flat. 3 states, 3 hours of flying. Every minute felt like forever. I kept my hand pressed against my stomach. The baby, my parents, everything I loved balanced on a knife's edge. Kyung sat beside me the entire flight. His presence was solid, grounding, even though neither of us spoke much. We'll get them back, he said quietly. I wanted to believe him. We landed, as the sun was setting, switched to SUVs waiting on the tarmac. The drive toward my parents' packed territory felt surreal. Roads I hadn't seen in 7 years. Landmarks I'd forgotten I remembered. Yejun's phone rang. He answered, listened, and his entire body went rigid. When? His voice was sharp. A pause. How is that possible? He hung up, turned to his brothers. Dowon posted bail yesterday morning. Quiet release. No media. The words didn't make sense at first. He's out? I heard myself say. But you said… Money, Taijun said grimly. Lawyers. Judges who owe favors. He's been free for over 30 hours, Kyung said, and I heard the fury beneath his control. This whole thing was planned, Yejun finished. My stomach dropped. Another call came through. Yejun answered, listened, and cursed under his breath. Our house. Dowon's people broke in. They're destroying everything. The evidence? Kyung demanded. All of it. Files, documents, backups. Everything we kept. What about what you sent to the police, when I asked? The look that passed between the triplets made my blood run cold. If he can get bail that quietly, Kyung said slowly, he has people inside the department. He can make evidence disappear, Taejun added. We were 3 states away, completely unable to stop it. Understanding crashed over me like ice water. This was never about my parents, I said. They all looked at me. He wanted you away from the city, away from your evidence. My voice was shaking. The hostage message was bait. Get us here while he destroys everything back there. Kyung slammed his fist against the dashboard. The sound made me flinch. We fell for it, he said. Ran exactly where he wanted. But the photo of your parents, Taejun started. Could be fake, Yejun said. Doctored, manipulated. We need to check on them, I said. Now. The driver pushed the speed limit. Every turn, every mile felt too slow. When we finally pulled up to my parents' house, everything looked normal, peaceful. The porch light was on. Smoke drifted from the chimney. Too normal. I was out of the car before it fully stopped, stumbling toward the front door. Pain screamed through my side, but I didn't care. I knocked, pounded. Iyama! Appa! The door opened. My mother stood there, confused, safe, completely fine. Heijin. She blinked at me. What are you doing here? Relief hit me so hard I almost collapsed. My father appeared behind her, equally bewildered. We got a message, or I managed. A photo. You were tied up. Hostages. My parents exchanged confused looks. We've been home all day, my mother said gently. No one's been here. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands, showed her the photo. She gasped. That's from 3 years ago. When your aunt visited, we took photos in the basement, remember? The photo was real, but old. Manipulated to look recent. Terrifying. Immediate. He used an old photo to make us think. I couldn't finish the sentence. All 3 triplets' phones started buzzing at once. Sharp, insistent alerts. Yejun pulled his up first. His face went white. What? Kyung demanded. Yejun turned the screen so we could all see. Breaking news. Bold letters. Our faces. New evidence in the Bitna Seo murder case. Sources indicate the Kim triplets are wanted for questioning in connection with her death. My heart stopped. Security footage allegedly shows the triplets at the scene before the body was discovered. Footage played, grainy but clear enough. The triplets entering a building. Timestamps that lined up perfectly with Bitna's death. Police have issued warrants for their arrest. He's flipping it, Kyung said, voice hollow. Making us the killers. More details scrolled across the screen. Witnesses coming forward. Evidence that the triplets had moved the body to frame Dowon. Anonymous sources providing proof of a vendetta, a scheme, a murder conspiracy. The narrative was shifting in real time. Right in front of us. Dowon positioned as the victim. The innocent man framed by his vengeful brothers. Public opinion turning like a tide. He planned this from the beginning, I whispered. Used his arrest as bait. Got us to leave the city. Destroyed the evidence we'd gathered. Replaced it with fabricated proof of their guilt. We're 3 states away, Taejun said quietly. Wanted by police. Evidence destroyed. If we go back, we'll be arrested, Yejun added. If we stay away, we look guilty, Kyung finished. My parents were staring at all of us. My mother's hand found mine, squeezed. What's going on? She asked gently. Heijin, what happened? I had to explain everything. The divorce, the pregnancy. Bitna stabbing me, the fall, the triplets' dead mate, 9 years of grief and revenge and careful planning unraveling in a single coordinated strike. My mother's face shifted from confusion to horror. My father's expression went hard, protective. "You're staying here," he said firmly. "All of you, until we figure this out." "We can't," Kyung started. "You can and you will," my father interrupted. "This is packed territory. You're under our protection now." My vision was blurring at the edges. The pain, the stress, the travel, everything catching up at once. "He needs to lie down," my mother said, seeing my face, "before he collapses." She helped me inside, one arm around my waist, supporting my weight. The triplets followed, still staring at their phones as more news alerts poured in. My old bedroom looked exactly the same. Small bed, faded posters, books on shelves I'd left behind 7 years ago. My mother helped me onto the bed, her hands gentle as she adjusted pillows. "Rest," she said softly. "We'll handle this." But I couldn't rest. Couldn't stop my mind from racing. Everything was falling apart. Dowon was winning. The triplets were wanted for murder they didn't commit. Well, that I committed, that they'd helped cover up. And it was my fault, all of it. If I'd never chosen Dowon 7 years ago, if I'd honored the engagement, if I'd been stronger, smarter, less desperate to believe in love. My phone buzzed. I almost ignored it, almost threw it across the room. But something made me look. Unknown number. My hands shook as I opened it. "You thought you could escape me." Another message loaded. "I know where you are." A photo appeared, taken from outside. Recent. I could see our SUV parked in the driveway. Lights on in the house. He was here, or someone working for him was, watching us right now. The final message came through, and the words made my blood turn to ice. "I'm coming for what's mine, and this time, I'm taking everything." Sometimes love means walking into the fire alone. I stared at the message on my phone, the photo of my parents' house taken from outside, and felt everything inside me go cold and clear. Dowon was here, watching, waiting. My parents were downstairs unaware. The triplets were wanted by police because of me. Everyone I loved was in danger because Dowon's obsession with destroying them included destroying me. I couldn't tell anyone about this message. Couldn't risk my parents getting hurt. Couldn't watch the triplets lose more than they already had. This ended with me. My fingers trembled as I typed. "What do you want?" The response came immediately, like he'd been waiting. "You know what I want." My jaw clenched. "Say it." "My child, what's mine?" Rage burned through me, hot and vicious. I typed back before I could stop myself. "How can someone as vile as you want an innocent child?" Another message. "You don't know how to love. How could you possibly love a child?" His response made my stomach turn. "This isn't about love. Then, it's about what belongs to me, what they tried to take." I understood then, really understood. This was the same sickness that had killed Jisuk. Obsession, possession, hatred dressed up as ownership. It would never stop, not unless I stopped it. I typed carefully, "If I come to you, you leave everyone else alone." My parents, the triplets, everyone, agreed, "Just you and what's mine." "I need time," I wrote. "I can't travel yet." The wound. It was true, my body was barely holding together. But I was also buying time. One last night. 24 hours, then I come in, and I won't be gentle about it. My hands shook. 24 hours. I deleted the entire conversation, hid my phone, took 3 deep breaths until my heart stopped racing. Then I went downstairs. My mother was in the kitchen making tea. My father sat with the triplets in the living room, discussing security measures, pack alliances, legal strategies. They all looked up when I entered. "You should be resting," my mother said immediately, moving toward me. "I'm okay." I forced a smile. "Just needed to move around." Kyung's eyes tracked me across the room. Something in his expression made me think he could see right through me, but he didn't say anything. My mother made me sit, made me eat soup I didn't taste, fussed over my bandages while my father and the triplets talked about next steps. I nodded at the right times, said the right things, lied smoothly. "I'm just tired," I said when Kyung kept watching me. "Everything's catching up." He wanted to push. I could see it. But the crisis of being wanted for murder took precedence. They believed me because they wanted to, because they needed to focus on survival. Dinner was quiet, tense. My parents offered the guest rooms to the triplets. Everyone needed rest before making decisions in the morning. But I couldn't rest. Couldn't stop thinking about what I had to do. 24 hours, one day left with them, one night before I walked into Dowon's trap to save everyone I loved. I made another decision. Late that night, when the house had gone quiet, I slipped out of my childhood bedroom, walked softly down the hall to where the triplets were staying. Light showed under the door, voices low. They were still awake, discussing strategy. I knocked. The door opened. Taejun stood there, surprise crossing his face when he saw me. "Can I come in?" He stepped aside without question. All three of them were there. Yejun sat on the bed with a laptop. Kyung stood by the window. They'd been planning, coordinating, trying to find a way out of the trap Dowon had set. They all looked at me. "I need to thank you," I said quietly. "For what?" Taejun asked. "For seeing me when no one else did. For waiting 7 years. For protecting me even when I didn't know I needed it." My voice cracked. "For making me feel like I was worth something." Kyung crossed the room in 3 steps. His hand cupped my face, gentle despite the intensity in his eyes. "You are worth everything," he said. The air shifted, became heavy, charged with something I'd been too afraid to acknowledge before. "I don't know what happens next," I whispered. "But tonight, I don't want to be alone." What happened after wasn't rushed, wasn't desperate. It was careful, reverent, hands tracing around bandages, mindful of the wound in my side, soft touches that asked permission with every movement, whispered reassurances that I was safe, wanted, chosen. My suppressants were long gone. Our scents mingled freely, cedar and rain, and something sweet I'd never let myself notice before. Ki-young's fingers in my hair, anchoring me, Taejun's lips against my temple, breathing me in. Yejun's hand interlaced with mine, steady and sure. It wasn't about passion, it was about connection, comfort, belonging. For the first time in my life, I felt truly chosen. Not because of pack arrangements or legal contracts or someone's twisted obsession, but because they wanted me, all of me, broken pieces and sharp edges and the life growing inside me that wasn't even theirs. We ended up on the bed together, tangled in a way that should have been awkward but felt natural. Safe, like coming home to a place I'd never known existed. "What aren't you telling us?" Kyung murmured against my hair. My heart stuttered. "Nothing. I'm just scared." It wasn't entirely a lie. "We won't let anything happen to you," Taejun said, his arm tightening around my waist. "We promise," Yejun added. I closed my eyes against the guilt crushing my chest. Let myself have this. One night of feeling safe before I walked into the fire. Their breathing eventually evened out. Deep, steady, exhaustion finally pulling them under. I stayed awake, memorized the way Ki-young's hand rested on my hip, the sound of Taejun's heartbeat under my ear, the warmth of Yejun's fingers still holding mine. When the sky started to lighten, I carefully extracted myself from their arms. Every movement sent pain shooting through my side, but I bit down on it, stayed silent. I dressed in the pre-dawn darkness, pulled on the clothes I'd worn yesterday. Every motion hurt, found paper and pen on the desk, wrote with shaking hands. "I'm going to resolve everything. Don't follow me. Protect my parents. I need you to trust that this is my choice. Thank you for showing me what it means to be loved. H." I set the note on the pillow where I'd been sleeping, looked at them one last time. 3 identical faces peaceful in sleep. Beautiful and deadly in everything I'd never thought I could have. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "This is the only way." I slipped out of the room, down the stairs, out the front door into the cold December morning. A car was parked down the street. Dark, waiting. As I walked toward it, the headlights flicked on. The rear door opened. Dowon sat inside, perfectly composed, like he'd known exactly when I'd come. "I knew you'd make the right choice," he said. I climbed in. The door closed behind me with a sound like finality. My hand went to my stomach, One last protective gesture for the life growing there. Dowon's eyes followed the movement. Something flickered in his expression. Possession, triumph. "Let's go," I said quietly. The driver pulled away from the curb. I didn't look back at my parents' house. Didn't let myself think about the triplets waking up to find me gone. This was my choice, my sacrifice. If it saved them, it was worth it. Dowon leaned back against the leather seat, watching me with those cold, calculating eyes. "You really thought they could protect you from me," he said, almost amused. I didn't answer. "You're mine, Hajan. You've always been mine. That baby is mine. And this time, I'm going to make sure everyone knows it." The car turned onto the highway, carrying me away from safety and toward whatever Dowon had planned. I closed my eyes and prayed the triplets would forgive me. Hell is in fire. It's a remote cabin where no one can hear you scream. The drive took 4 hours. Dowon didn't speak much, just watched me with that cold, satisfied expression that made my skin crawl. When we finally stopped, I saw nothing but trees. Isolation so complete, it felt like the world had forgotten this place existed. "Our new home," Dowon said, opening my door. "Until the baby comes." The cabin was small but well-stocked. He'd planned this, prepared for months maybe. Food in the pantry, supplies in the bathroom, a prison disguised as domesticity. He laid out the rules before I'd even caught my breath. "You'll cook, clean, be the proper house husband you never were." His voice was calm, matter-of-fact. No phone, no internet, no contact with anyone. My phone was already gone. He'd taken it in the car. "If you behave," he continued, "I might be gentle. If you don't—" He let the threat hang. My wound throbbed. The stab wound from Bitna that was still healing. My body was weak, running on fumes and fear. "Make dinner," he said. "I'm hungry." Standing at the stove hurt. Every movement pulled at the half-healed flesh in my side. But I cooked because the alternative was worse. Dowon sat at the table watching me struggle, smiling. The days blurred together after that. Wake at dawn. Make breakfast. Clean the cabin on my knees because he liked watching me that way. Cook lunch, more cleaning. Dinner. Repeat. Nothing I did was good enough. The eggs were too runny. The floor wasn't clean enough. The soup needed more salt, no less salt. What was wrong with me that I couldn't do this one simple thing? My wound wasn't healing properly. I could feel it. The constant movement, the stress, the lack of proper rest. Something was wrong. But Dowon didn't care about the pregnancy, didn't ask how I felt, just demanded more. "Omegas are built for this," he said when I moved too slowly one morning. "Stop being dramatic." I woke up 6 days into cramping. Sharp, wrong, different from the wound pain. The bathroom. Blood. Just spotting, but enough to make my heart stop. No, not the baby. Please, not the baby. I tried to rest, but Dowon wanted breakfast. I made it through sheer force of will, one hand pressed against my stomach, like I could hold everything together through pressure alone. By evening, the spotting had become bleeding. Real bleeding. And the cramps were worse, radiating through my entire abdomen. I found Dowon in the living room. "Something's wrong." My voice shook. "I'm bleeding. I need a hospital." He glanced up from the TV, unconcerned. "You're fine. Don't be dramatic." "Please." The word broke. "The baby, my baby will be fine. You're just trying to manipulate me into letting you go." Pain lanced through me. I doubled over, gasping. Blood was soaking through my clothes now. This wasn't normal. This was bad. "Please, Dowon, I'm begging you." He laughed. Actually laughed. "Let me watch," when he said. "I want to see if you're really as weak as you seem." I made it to the bathroom before my legs gave out. Spent hours on the cold tile floor, bleeding, cramping, crying, alone. Dowon checked on me occasionally, watched with detached curiosity like I was some experiment. The pain became everything. Consuming. I screamed, begged, prayed. I felt it when it happened. The moment the baby slipped away, something breaking inside me that had nothing to do with flesh. Finally, Dowon made a phone call. Not 911. Someone private. Someone who wouldn't ask questions. Get here. Now. The doctor arrived an hour later. Too late. Too late for everything that mattered. He examined me clinically, stopped the worst of the bleeding, gave me something for the pain that barely touched it. You've lost the baby, he said, like it was a fact. A weather report. You need evacuation. A procedure at a clinic to remove the retained tissue. Soon. Infection is a serious risk. Dowon nodded along, paid the doctor cash, sent him away. When we were alone again, I whispered, I need to go to the clinic. No, I could die. The doctor said, you'll be fine. I'm not letting you leave where people can fill your head with ideas. His voice was flat, final. You lost my baby. The least you can do is stay here and face what you've done. Something inside me snapped, not broke, transformed. Grief into rage so pure it burned away fear. But I didn't let it show. Not yet. That night, while Dowon showered, I found his phone on the kitchen counter. He'd gotten careless, confident in my brokenness. My hands shook as I opened it. No password. He hadn't expected me to have the strength to try anything. I opened his social media, found the live stream function, set it up behind a stack of books on the shelf, angled perfectly to capture the living room. Hit record. Then I went to find him. What I've done, I said loud enough for the phone to catch. You did this. You forced me to work, ignored the bleeding, laughed while I... Careful. He stepped closer, dangerous. But I couldn't stop. Wouldn't stop. You killed your own child, just like you killed Jaseok. His face went dark. Don't say his name. Why? Because you pushed him off that balcony? Because you couldn't stand that he loved them and not you? I said don't. His hand shot out, grabbed my arm right over the healing stab wound. I gasped, vision whiting out. You framed your own brothers. I pushed through the pain, destroyed evidence, manipulated the police. They deserved it. The words exploded out of him. They had everything. 3 of them bonded to one perfect Omega while I... He stopped, realized he'd said too much. I saw the opening, pushed harder. While you what? Had nothing? While I was always second, always less. His control was cracking, years of resentment pouring out. Father gave them everything. The company, the respect, the perfect arranged mate. So you killed Jaseok? He was weak, fell so easily. One push and he was gone. The confession came out bitter, triumphant. And Father believed me, exiled them, gave me everything. And me? Was I just a way to hurt them? You were supposed to be mine, part of what I took from them. But you ruined it, he was yelling now. Couldn't even keep my baby alive. Couldn't be the obedient Omega you were supposed to be. Everything was spilling out. The murder, the frame job, the manipulation, years of jealousy and violence tumbling from his mouth. His phone was capturing it all, streaming live to thousands of viewers. Every word, every confession, going viral in real time. Dowon's expression shifted. Something in my face tipped him off. What did you do? Nothing. I just want to go to the clinic. You're not going anywhere. He moved to block the door. You take one step out of here, and I'll make sure your parents suffer. I still have people watching them. The triplets can't protect you. They're wanted for murder. You're mine now. This cabin is yours. Get used to it. Sirens. Distant but getting closer. Dowon froze. What did you... I pointed to the shelf. He saw his phone. The little red light. Rushed over and grabbed it. The screen showed everything. Thousands of viewers. His confession recorded, shared, spreading like wildfire. You! The door burst open. Police flooded in, weapons drawn. Kim Dowon, you're under arrest. They swarmed him, forced him to the ground. And behind them, pushing through, Kyung, Taejun, Yejun, the relief on their faces when they saw me. Then horror as they took in the blood, the weakness, the way I could barely stand. I tried to go to them. My legs gave out. Kyung caught me before I hit the floor. We've got you, he said. We're here. The baby... My voice broke. I lost... We know. It's okay. You're going to be okay. Paramedics rushed in, stretcher, hands lifting me carefully. As they loaded me into the ambulance, Dowon screamed from where police had him pinned. That baby was mine! Mine! The last thing I saw before they closed the doors was his face, twisted with rage and finally defeated. Freedom tastes like ashes when you've lost everything to earn it. The weeks after the cabin blurred together. Hospital first, evacuation procedure, antibiotics, monitoring for infection. Then the triplets' home, where they gave me the guest room and treated me like I might shatter if they breathed too hard. Maybe I would have. I was hollow. The baby was gone. Dowon had taken that too, along with everything else. I barely spoke, barely ate, just existed in a fog of grief and guilt while the world moved around me. The triplets handled everything. My medical appointments, the media circus, the legal nightmare unfolding in real time. Dowon's confession had gone viral. Millions of views, thousands of shares, every major news outlet covering the story. The trial was swift, his own words from the live stream condemning him. Murder, kidnapping, conspiracy, evidence tampering, sentenced to death. The triplets were cleared of Yusik's murder after 9 years of carrying that weight, but Bitna's case remained open. I watched them work tirelessly to keep my name out of it. Lawyers, depositions, manipulating evidence to take the fall themselves. They'd go to prison for what I did, without hesitation. The guilt became unbearable. I found them in the living room one evening, all three of them going over legal documents, strategizing how to protect me. I'm going to the police station tomorrow, I said. They looked up, confused at first. I'm confessing to Bitna's death. The room went silent, then erupted. Absolutely not, Kyung said, standing. We've already handled it, Taejun added. You don't need to. I killed her, not you. My voice was steady, clearer than it had been in weeks. I won't let you pay for what I did. It was self-defense, Yejun argued. Let us protect you. No. I looked at each of them. This is mine to carry. I need to put this to rest. They tried to talk me out of it all night. Tried reasoning, pleading, anger. Nothing worked. The next morning I walked into the police station with them trailing behind me, still trying to stop me. I approached the detective handling Bitna's case. His eyes widened when he recognized me. I killed Bitna's CO, I said. It was self-defense. But I did it. The words came easier than I expected. I explained everything. The break-in, the stabbing, the fall, being caught mid-air while she hit the ground. They arrested me on the spot. The triplets were outside when they led me out in handcuffs. The devastation on their faces almost broke my resolve. Almost. The trial took months. The triplets hired lawyers who built a case around self-defense. A pregnant Omega attacked in his own home by a woman who'd already assaulted him publicly. Clear intent to kill. Medical records proving the stab wound, the pregnancy, the trauma. The live stream showed Dowon admitting he'd orchestrated everything. Public opinion split down the middle. Half saw me as a victim who'd fought back. Half saw a murderer who'd pushed a woman to her death. I testified calmly, honestly, taking full responsibility. I pushed her to protect my baby, I said. I didn't mean to kill her, but I did. The verdict came back guilty. Manslaughter mitigated by self-defense in circumstances. 3 years imprisonment, reduced because I'd confessed willingly, because I was a victim of prolonged abuse, because I'd lost a child while being held captive. The triplets sat in the courtroom, faces carved from stone. When they led me away, I looked back one last time, mouthed the words, "Wait for me." Kyung nodded. Just once. 3 years. I won't lie and say they were easy. Prison strips you down to your bones, shows you who you are when everything else is gone. But I had time to think, to grieve properly, to understand the choices I'd made and why. The triplets visited every week, brought books, photos, stories about the outside world. We're still waiting, Kyung said every single time. And they did. The day I walked out of the detention center, the morning sun felt too bright, the air too cold, everything too much after 3 years of controlled sameness. I was different, thinner, gaunt, hollow-eyed and worn down, but stronger too, in ways that mattered. 3 figures stood at the entrance. They looked older, tired, like the waiting had carved lines into their faces that hadn't been there before. Behind them, a car, my parents visible through the window, my mother already crying. I walked toward the triplets slowly, uncertain if they'd still want what was left of me. Kyung spoke first. "Welcome home." The word cracked something open in my chest. Home. I had one now. My parents got out of the car, rushed forward. My mother grabbed me, sobbing into my shoulder. "We're so sorry," she said. "We should never have arranged that engagement. Never pushed you into pack politics when you were so young." My father's hand was heavy on my back. "This is our fault. We failed you." I pulled back gently, looked at them both. "No," I said. "I made the choice. I chose Dowon over the triplets 10 years ago." My voice was steady. I'd had 3 years to practice this. I chose to believe his lies, chose to stay when I saw the red flags, chose to ignore every warning sign because I thought I knew better than everyone else. Tears streamed down my mother's face. "I chose wrong," I continued, "and I paid for it. We all did." I turned to the triplets. They were watching me with expressions I couldn't quite read. 3 years ago, I didn't know what I wanted. I was running from pain, from responsibility, from myself. I stepped closer to them. "I know now. I know what real love looks like, what it costs, what it's worth." Another step. "You waited 7 years the first time, respected my choice even when it hurt you. Then you waited 3 more while I was in prison for killing someone." Kyung's eyes were wet. "You protected me when I didn't deserve it, saved me when I'd given up, fought for me even when I kept pushing you away." My throat was tight, but I pushed through. "So I'm making a choice, the right one this time." One more step brought me close enough to touch. "If you'll still have me—" I didn't get to finish. All 3 of them moved at once, closing the distance, pulling me into their arms, careful of how fragile I looked, gentle despite the obvious need to hold tighter. "We never stopped waiting," Taejun whispered against my hair. "Never stopped wanting you," Yejun added, his hand finding mine. "You're ours," Kyung said, voice rough with emotion. "You've always been ours." I broke then. 3 years of tears I'd held back in that cell finally falling. Ugly, gasping sobs that shook my entire body. "I'm sorry it took me so long," I managed. "You're here now," Kyung said. "That's all that matters." We stood there, the 4 of us, finally whole. After a decade of being broken, my parents watched with bittersweet smiles. This is what should have happened 10 years ago. What could have been if I'd made different choices. But maybe I needed to break first. Needed to lose everything to understand what actually mattered. They took me to their home. Not my old apartment, not my parents' house, the triplets' home, where a room had been waiting. "We can take this slow," Taejun offered as we walked inside. "Whatever you need." I shook my head. I've had 3 years of slow, 3 years of waiting and thinking and becoming someone who deserves this. I looked at all of them, these men who'd waited a decade for me to choose them. I'm ready now, for all of it, for you. We talked about the mating bond that night, traditional ceremony, legal binding, everything I'd run from 10 years ago. This time I walked into it with open eyes, not because of pack arrangements or family pressure or running from someone else, but because they were home. 10 years, 2 murders, 1 lost baby, and 3 years in prison later, I finally understood what it meant to choose love over fear. The end. If Haejin's journey from betrayal to redemption touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe for more emotionally charged stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Sometimes the hardest choice is choosing yourself. Sometimes love means waiting through the darkness. And sometimes it takes losing everything to find what was yours all along. What would you have done in Haejin's place? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for listening to this story. Until next time, choose love, choose truth, and never let anyone make you forget your worth.